dangerous.
Pretty dangerous. It is also ubiquitous. It is accessible,
Yes.
and not only by certainly government, which we're talking about that balance between surveillance and civil rights, and certainly the importance of our law, but we're also talking about corporations, whether
Yes.
they be internet companies, internet providers, whether they be large, vast technology and telecommunications company, all of them sharing the very information that you've described in addition to
Yes.
the agency of the government that we rely upon to provide that surveillance and best possible knowledge and understanding of what is happening, at least in the world of the internet, as you said, in switch communications as well. It becomes a very difficult, if you will, bramble and thicket to navigate.
Plus, there's another real danger. You have to be, you know, they talk about trust. You have to trust the government. But you also have to trust all the people in the government, because they can get on a terminal, go into those systems and look at any database and anyone in there that they want to. And then you have to trust all the contractors who are maintaining that database and maintaining the communications and the query routines and ensuring that the whole system works. You have to trust all of them not to go into that database to look for things from other companies or something, or competitors, or to look, if you wanted to see if your wife is cheating on you, you could go and do that. It's in that database. You could see relationships your wife may have, and you could infer a relationship there. So, you know, there's so many pitfalls and so many dangers at assembling all this information about individuals.
Inferring relationships, also seeking out with great specificity connections from which to draw intelligent analysis and conclusions, which is what we want the NSA to do, which is what we want our intelligence agencies to do. And I'm left then with the trust, as you talk about. You know, famously, Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. And my God, I think we would all expect certainly the NSA to verify, irrespective of whom the employee might be or the position he or she might hold. But at the other end of this, in government, whom do we trust? Do we trust the president? The most recent ratings suggest not. Do we trust Congress? Hardly. Their ratings are so low. We can't, right now in the midst of scandal, really say that the State Department, the Internal Revenue Service, the Justice Department merit our trust, can we?
No, you can't. And there's another myth that they're really circulating around Washington, and they're claiming that that's the truth. And that is that you have to collect all of this data to get the terrorists. That's absolutely false. They're basically just simply two principles they'd have to use in their collection of data and analysis to do that. One is, I call it the 2-degree principle. If you have a terrorist calls somebody in the United States, that's the first degree. The second degree is who that person in the United States then calls. So there's that forms a zone of suspicion. And you take that collectively along with monitoring the jihadi advocating sites and those who advocate violence against the West, and see who's accessing those. That aggregate then is your suspicion, zone of suspicion. We would have gotten the Fort Hood bomb shooter and the Boston bombers. They did that. They were a part of that. In fact, I do not know of anyone that wouldn't have fallen into that category. That was the principle I was using. Plus,
well, there's also, you bring up the Boston bombing. That seems to me to be clearly a failure of human intelligence. That is clear communication between the CIA and the Russian agencies, clear communication between the Russian agencies and the FBI. I presume then communication between the CIA and FBI, perhaps even local. We're just speculating. But that's human intelligence that was an abject failure, don't you think?
Well, I also called it the intelligence failure was also the SIGINT part of it, because all of those connections also showed up in the call records and even the
corroborated
ex-FBI,
intelligence.
Yeah, the ex-FBI agent Tim Clementi, when he was interviewed on CNN about a week and a half ago, he said that no digital communications were safe, and that they had a way of getting back to the communications between one of the bombers and his wife.
You know, as we have, and it's been fascinating. It's been fascinating listening to you take us through this and try as best we can to comprehend part, at least, of what you're talking about in the architecture, the operations of the agency and in intelligence, signal intelligence. Let me ask you this. Do you not, you were talking about these nodes that are created by a series of connections, whether they be communication between a jihadist and someone in this country, whether they be subsequent communications. What do you make of an event in which the President of the United States, complaining mightily about cyber attacks, ends up in the Southern California desert with President Xi Jinping for a 2-day summit? Cyber attacks against the United States to be a large agenda item, tough talk from the President, his administration, and suddenly that 2-day summit is vaporized by someone by the name of Edward Snowden and his revelations and his forthcoming details. In that, tell me if you find a node, a coincidence, or just random circumstance in intelligence terms.
Well, it could be simply random. I wouldn't be able to say, but the entire government could have avoided all of this if they'd have been a little more honest with everything that they're doing with the public, and if they'd have done a proper job, a legal job, a constitutionally acceptable job.
No question. But I was asking really for the intelligence conclusion, given you're almost 40 years in the NSA. Well, because I find myself as the host of this broadcast just scratching my head at the and marveling at the coincidence.
There is in fact a probability of association, and the question would be: did Snowden know about the visit from the Chinese premier? Right. And and if he did, then and he could have connected it with that. All right. So certainly that's a possibility. Yeah.
Well, and lots of possibilities remain for us, and will until we actually know. William Binney, we thank you for being here to expand our knowledge, and I assure you the fault lies with me, not you, if mine hasn't grown. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
We'll have much